Our nervous system impacts our enjoyment of life, our enjoyment and connection in our relationships. It impacts our sleep, our mood, our business, and just like everything.
Hi beautiful beings, my name is Brittany.
And I'm Bridget.
And today we're going to be talking about nervous system regulation and food nourishment, nourishing our systems, and the essential intersection of the both of them.
I like that intro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot of things intertwined, but really we call it nervous system nourishment.
Yeah.
And it's been alive for us in our lives, and it's really cool to have this little human, right? So we have a 4.5-year-old that we're witnessing very intimately growing in his body. And yeah, there's just these, right? Like, we're so similar to a little child.
Oh,
but
yeah.
a little child's nervous system is so much more sensitive. And ours, over the years, become calloused. And so it's really powerful to see how Ilya reacts and just acts throughout the day when his nervous system is dysregulated. And so we're going to bring in the things nutritionally that can contribute to that dysregulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you brought this up. And also because he doesn't have like social norms like indoctrinated into him. Like,
no filter.
Yeah.
Just,
you feel his nervous system through his expression, his words, how he is showing up really clearly.
And it's cool because we all feel each other's nervous systems. But with the child, it's just highlighted so much more intensely. So we learn so much by witnessing children. And we've learned so much by witnessing Ilya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is so, it's so pivotal. And I think sometimes this is seen as like, I don't want to name it as like a boring topic, but I think if you were to say like, oh, the video, like nervous system regulation and nourishment and how the two are connected, people would be like, skip that one. But actually this is so juicy and essential. And I love any moment that I get to remind my system how important this is and speak about it in the world, because it's one of those gems that is actually life-changing, and it's like flying under the surface somehow, not being talked about.
Yeah, definitely. When I look at Ilya and I'm like, oh yeah, his nervous system, I'm like, wow, my nervous system, and all the times where I can relate to this feeling of I'm just gonna name, before I get into this, what nervous system dysregulation is chemically in the body, right? So we have this autonomic nervous system that is the fight, the flight, the freeze, the fawn. And this is from, when we go into fight or flight, it's usually from adrenaline and cortisol pumping in our system, right? This tells the system that we're in stress. This is also the same as blood sugar dysregulation. So if blood sugar is high, it's got to come low. If cortisol is high, it's got to come low. And they're kind of the same thing. Blood sugar and cortisol have a similar, our autonomic nervous system has a similar reaction to cortisol and to blood sugar. And so when Ilya hasn't had enough of the appropriate balance of macronutrients, more specifically protein and fat. Most of us are eating enough carbohydrates. Kids specifically are definitely eating enough carbs.
It's really easy for kids to eat carbs.
And so we have to be kind of adamant with Ilya about eating more protein and eating more fat. But when he does, he's like a different human. And so are we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love how direct this link is between how we are nourishing our bodies. So just to put it really simply here, like eating more fat and protein. That's how it's showed up in my life.
And eating enough food.
Yeah. Yeah. But for me, if I haven't eaten enough food and I just grab more like quick fixes that are basically carbohydrates, it's not going to ground me in the way that I need. Yeah. And it's wild to think how many people are walking around with dysregulated nervous systems that are solely based on, or like mostly based on, that they haven't nourished themselves with, like, yeah, for me and for us, it's like 3 meals a day of this balance of all these 3 macronutrients that we need. And it's oftentimes as simple as that. I know it is with Ilya. It's like 80% has he been nourished, like has he rested?
Yeah, and maybe it's like kind of bringing this back to the foundation or the pillars of nourishment, because when I think of the word nourishment, like I think of my whole system just feeling at ease and nourished, grounded, rooted, and this can be through these things we're talking about with food, right? And then maybe a couple other basics are sleep, water or hydration, and like sunshine and nature, right? So when Ilya has had all of those components, he is just happy and thriving and playful. He's easy to connect with. He's loving. It's just a much better time for all of us. And so if we can kind of see this as a reflection for, like, when we're looking at Ilya, or just like when I think about the humans in the world and our nervous systems and the times that we're living in, I think a lot of us are dysregulated because of the physical practices that maybe we're lacking in, or physical nutrients that we are lacking in. And
and then it shows up in these deeper ways where it can feel, the stories might be like, oh, I'm really depressed, or I'm like all over the map, or I have these big life things I need to figure out, or everything feels heavy, or relationships are hard. Love that we're talking about it on this channel, because like being regulated or dysregulated hugely impacts the people closest to us.
And talking about these highs and lows and emotions, big emotions, right? So what that is if we think about, right, blood sugar, cortisol going up and down, and there's this middle part called the window of tolerance. This is where our nervous system likes to stay, likes cortisol and blood sugar to stay. It's just like these, it's nice and balanced and flowing, right? But if we're having these huge spikes and then crashing, our emotions and our entire system is going to feel out of whack and literally dysregulated. So,
I love this topic so much.
Definitely. And just this week, I've been sleeping a little lighter. We've been just busy. We've had a lot going on, and I haven't been eating as much. And when I'm busy, right, cortisol, adrenaline, that equals fight or flight. When we're in fight or flight, we cannot enter rest and digest. So my hunger hormone, when we're busy, hunger hormones just aren't as accessible, because, and I'm kind of like, for me, just speaking about this personally, I've been running on adrenaline a little more this week. So I haven't been eating as much. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm getting these little signs of, hey, you need to eat a little more. And it's cool to have this on a subtle level, because this used to be a huge part of my life where I just wasn't nourished and was kind of chronically in this up or down space. And I think this is just such an important topic to talk about, because I think sometimes the little things can be overlooked, or maybe we don't give enough merit to how much food and the right balance of food impacts our nervous system. And then that does, like, our nervous system impacts our enjoyment of life, our enjoyment and connection in our relationships. It impacts our sleep, our mood, our business, and just like everything. And so I think this topic is really powerful.
Yeah, that quote that you shared that I think of all the time now is like, we see and experience the world through the lens of our nervous system. So if you realize like that is everything, it brings this into focus as like a super essential topic.
Yeah, definitely. And so that's all I have.
That's what I have.
I'd love to hear how this topic lands for you. If you notice a shift, if you're, on point with your nourishment routines, or
if you struggle and how they impact you, or tricks that you've had that, like, I know for me, like waking up and within the first few hours having like a really solid meal that is emphasizing fat and protein has changed my life.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yes. So I'd love to hear about your rituals.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.